Hi, and welcome to the Banker's Tech Talk video series focused on the FinTech wave. I'm Joy Macknight, Deputy and Technology Editor at The Banker, and I'm joined by Veronique Barbosa, Co-founder and Chief Operating Officer, and Matty Cusden Ross, Founder and CEO at Flux, which is a paperless receipt platform. Thanks so much for joining us today. So how does Flux really make receipts meaningful on one level, but then also help banks really sort of ramp up their customer loyalty?
Sure. I think to answer that question, it's useful to understand a bit more about what we do. So at Flux, our mission really is to liberate the world's receipt data. The reason that we want to do that is that we think it can create a lot of value to millions of people. And so for consumers, it can bring unparalleled insights into their personal finances, but it can also allow for much better personalization. Now, better personalization is also great for retailers because they can use that to drive sales. And increased sales at retailers is great for banks because it means increased card usage. So because it creates such benefits across the chain, it's not really a question of if the data will become ubiquitous, it's much more a question of how. And the only way that we can see it getting to scale, like contactless level scale, is that it has to be totally seamless for the consumer. And so the way that we capture that data is that we link it directly to your bank card so that you can just walk into a shop, pay with your bank card as you always do, and we're able to capture that data and store it in the same place your transactions live today, which is your bank statements. Now, by being able to unlock that data, we're able to work with banks and really deliver a lot more value to their customers. So by liberating that information, we are able to help them with things like never having to worry about their receipts again, never have to keeping a shoebox of them at home, let's say. But also by being able to layer on that data to a bank card, we're able to really bring all the benefits that loyalty cards use that leverage that information and like tie it right to a bank card so that when you pay with your bank card, you can just get all the benefits of your loyalty card without having to scan it again. But also we're able to use it for a myriad of other interesting things, something I'm sure that you find a pain as much as I do, which is expensing, right? So expensing is a massive pain. But once you have actually liberated that item level data, you're able to make something like expensing completely invisible, right? So the future will be that you pay with your bank card, the item level data is sent to your bank, it's reconciled there, it then gets sent over to your accounting software. Rules are applied, let's say you bought wine at lunch, you can't have that, and then the right amount is sent back to your bank account before you've left the shop. So by being able to liberate this data, what we're able to do is really derive and deliver a lot of value back to the customers that makes the banking product sticky and relevant today, so the customers won't migrate from existing large banks to challenger banks or other banking partners. Yeah.
Okay, and as a startup, you went through the Barclays Techstars Accelerator program. What would you say were sort of the lessons learned, or what were the benefits that came out of that?
Sure. I mean, so yeah, the Techstars program was incredible, absolutely game-changing for us. So it was really testament to Chris and Madeline who were running it. And I think that the key benefits for us were really the network that they brought. So they are able to bring a huge amount of incredible people that we can interact with that just otherwise it would take a huge amount of time to get access to. And the way I see it is that for us and our startup, we know what our mission is, but to get there is pretty hard. It's kind of like being at like Waterloo train station at rush hour, right? So you know where you want to get to, but to get there, there's just like loads of people, and so you end up having to take this like kind of random walk to get there. Like what Techstars does is it makes all of those interactions that you make incredibly valuable, and it really increases the frequency of them so that you can actually get to that endpoint much faster. And so yeah, it's brilliant.
Because a lot of startups, have that kind of challenge in terms of working with the bigger banks, where it's very hard to find sort of the people that they really need to talk to. Sort of, what are the biggest challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, so working with big banks, the biggest challenge for sure is kind of managing the process, right? So big banks have typically been used to working with big companies, and so they have very long procurement cycles. As a small startup, that can be terrible, right? Because they could potentially kill startups. And so I think the biggest challenge has been navigating the internal workings of big banks. And so we've been working directly with people like Richard Thompson and Scott Bushell, who have been really our guides, and they've been able to help us understand the infrastructure behind the bank, so that we can actually find the right people in a reasonable amount of time, who have the right priorities and the budget to actually make the decisions. And so what we're seeing is that although it is still very complex, there's a move towards providing people that can really help startups like us work with those big banks in an effective and timely manner.
Okay, and the last question I'm going to ask is, I know Flux has become the first FCA authorized account information service provider under open banking, which went live on the 13th of January. Veronique, sort of, you know, how important is that really to Flux's business model?
Well, we were first really delighted to be the first. You know, we were right to the gate when the applications opened back in October. We went through the questions and interactions with the FCA themselves very quickly, mostly thanks to the fact that we've actually been, you know, live and operational with 2 banks since last year. So we've been working not only with Starling Bank, but also in a closed pilot with Monzo Bank, which means that we had been through the compliance and due diligence processes of a bank to get us to the point of actually being you know, authorized quite quickly. And in terms of what it means for our business model and how important it is to us, the most fundamental shift that we've seen in the open banking landscape has actually been the mind shift change within the large banks in terms of how the willingness and the speed at which they're engaging with fintechs and executing on new projects. So, you know, one thing we've been really proud of is we've been actively supporting the managed rollout with the open banking implementation entity. And that means that we've been actively supporting, you know, the large banks here in the UK, specifically working closely with Lloyds Banking Group to be one of the first to get that transaction flow going with the AIS API. So we were really excited that, you know, a couple weeks ago we got that going. So they've really been leading, you know, the bleeding edge of open banking rollout, and so it's been a real pleasure to use this new mind shift and kind of really a deep cultural change in the financial industry to propel like our conversations further. And in terms of how we will be, you know, looking at open banking and the API specifically, more will be revealed from our side soon. But fundamentally, you know, what Flux is about, as Matty was mentioning, is we provide a really seamless customer experience across payment accounts. So more to come there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Veronique. Matty, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
Pleasure.